Hey everyone, it's John from Town Planning Expert and the Anti-Guru, and today's video goes into how we use planning as a process in order to get planning applications. Join me in a few minutes and we'll go through how to use the process of the planning system to get you consent. Right, so the thesis behind this video is planning as a process, not a permission. And actually that's quite sensible when you think about it. So let's understand that. Okay, the government in the NPPF now advocates the idea that planning is a process, not a permission. So it's an interaction that goes on over time with the council. Now we've just been through an interaction over time with South Lakeland Council, and I wanted to reflect upon that to try and help emphasize this idea that planning is a process, not a quick and fast permission. So let's understand how that works and how it got to the end result that everyone saw on Facebook, which was an approval for 28 units in an outline consent. So planning is a process, not a permission. Let's start with that thesis. If you think about it as a process, if you plan for it to be a process, if you plan for it to be a drawn out entity, then you're never going to be disappointed with the planning system. You're never going to be disappointed that planning takes time, and it does. That outline consent took 2 years, and it's an outline consent for a major development. It's their biggest development they've ever done. Now it's important for them to get permission, so we treated it as a process. We worked with their architects to get a scheme of development that worked on the application site in the first instance. Now that was a drawn out process, going back and forward with the architects to make sure everything fitted, to make sure everything worked. We weren't trying to put too much on the site. We were going for that Goldilocks scheme. We were going for that Goldilocks scheme, that just right approach. Now that Goldilocks scheme is very, very difficult to get to, but once you get there, everything flows from it. And I'm going to be doing a bedtime story on Goldilocks and the Three Mentors, where we're going to talk about achieving the Goldilocks scheme very, very soon. So I hope you look out for that. The next part of this is to submit the planning application and to be reactive to what the council want. So the council always have a very short list of stuff they want right at the beginning and give a long list further down the line. Be reactive to that. Be proactive when it comes to that. Ask them quite pointedly, and we did over and over again. Is there anything else you need? Is there anything else you want? Can we give you any other information? Can we drive this forward in any other way for you? How can we help? Now in the initial stages, that was very much led by them. Can we have this drawing or this drawing or this drawing to help us understand how this works? Of course you can. Not going to fight you on it. We're going to go with you. We're going to work with you. We're going to make it happen. There was very much the point in time where we were applying for more on that site, 30 units. And the council weren't so happy with 30 units, so we pared it back for them. Granted, we pared it back by 2, but it works. And it works at 28. So once we'd done all of that, once we'd worked with them and engaged in that process, then it had to go round for its first time at committee. Now it went through committee quite happily, and then we had to start negotiating the section 106, and then the second stage of the process kicked in. The council were happy with the first stage of the process. They were happy with the development as presented, having worked with them and got a design and layout solution that works on the site. We then moved that forward to the negotiation and handed off that process to Nick Leading, who is Andy and Lloyd's project manager. Now Nick did a sterling job, absolutely sterling job in negotiation. Granted, that negotiation took a year, but Nick did a sterling job in that negotiation, talking through the planners and telling them why we couldn't get to their 35% on site, but we could get them to 25% on site. And interestingly enough, there was a point in that process where Nick was talking to me about it, and I said, look, you've got to where you want to be. You've actually got to the 7 that you wanted to give them. That's 25% of 28. Stop there. Don't carry on. Don't keep going. Because every once in a while, if you choose to keep going, you extend the process map. You extend the model further. Now, very happily, that went before their individual assessor. And their individual assessor turned around and said, yep, this works. This stacks. This works and is viable at the 7 units that they're offering to the council. So once that part of the process was done, we went back for committee again, seeking then a permission, providing 25% on site. Now, even the committee is a process. It's a process of toing and froing between officers and committee members, with us agents throwing some noises in the mix. But having gone through that process, we now have a permission. We have an outline permission. Now that outline permission spawns another process. See, it's the planning process. It's not all about the permission, it's about the process. It's about the journey that that application takes through the system. So that process will now be focused on reserve matters and dealing with the bits that were left behind in the outline submission. We did outline submission because that was the process that was most appropriate for Andy Lloyd at the time. So that process will now focus on the reserve matters and discharging the planning conditions that have been left on the outline planning permission. There are 20 conditions on that, so that's going to take some time. Importantly, we have the time to utilise. We have the time to take to be able to get that development moving forward through the planning process. Now, when you add one to the other, it's taken or will take about 4 years perhaps before they put spade to ground. That doesn't matter so much because their funding model is based on a process which takes them that long. What you have to do is recognise that the process does take that long. I'm always reminded of developers who put sites on bridging and then assume that it's a permission, not a process. Yes, the planning permission might open the door to the funding, but sometimes it doesn't. I've got a case that I've been working on where it's the discharge of planning conditions that opens the door to the funding, not the permission itself. Planning is a process, not a permission. I hope that helps you. I hope you found that interesting. A bit of a short one, but it's okay. If you have any questions, then don't hesitate to put them in the comment section below. Hit me a like, hit the notification bell, and more importantly, subscribe. You'll get notified of any new videos coming forward. I will see you all very next time on the Anti-Guru.